to duty echoes across the waters. The Indian Navy surges to life, a mighty force ready to dominate, ever vigilant to protect our nation's interests across the vast expanse of the oceans. Indian Navy, waves of power. Each vessel a fortress. Aircraft carriers. Stealth frigates and deadly destroyers. All combat ready, armed to defend. Beneath the waves, submarines glide silently. Trained crews monitor every ripple, every sound.
The Indian Navy remains ready and stood to not only to protect and preserve our maritime frontiers, but also to promote and pursue national maritime interests wherever they may be.
As global security dynamics evolve, the collaboration among the Army, Navy, and Air Force is vital for uniting against multi-domain threats. This collaboration boosts operational efficiency, enabling swift, decisive action in both peace and conflict. The Indian Ocean is the lifeblood of trade, connecting nations and driving global commerce. As the guardian of these waters, the Indian Navy secures vital sea lanes that support India's economy. With unyielding resolve, our forces patrol the waters, ready to confront any looming threat to our maritime interests, while also rendering assistance to ships in distress, even in the toughest situations. Building partnerships across oceans, the Indian Navy is at the forefront in participating in bilateral and multilateral exercises. These collaborative efforts not only bolster our collective defense capabilities, but also ensure a united response to emerging maritime challenges. The Indian Navy proudly embraces the Make in India initiative, constructing world-class warships, a testament to India's self-reliance and technological prowess. Innovation fuels our readiness. From advanced drones to autonomous systems and state-of-the-art technology, we are prepared to tackle the challenges of the future. Events like Swavlamban showcase groundbreaking innovations that drive India's maritime self-reliance. Being the first responder, the Indian Navy is always prepared to undertake humanitarian assistance and disaster relief operations. From cyclones to floods, our disaster relief missions provide aid and solace, saving lives in the most challenging circumstances.
Pilots, are you ready?
Yes, sir!
Behind every operation, every mission, and every success, our personnel are the backbone of the Navy. From rigorous training to unwavering commitment, they are the true strength that drives us forward. In Navika Sagar Parikrama 2, circumnavigation by 2 women officers symbolizes endurance and women empowerment.
I believe that Indian Navy is every Indian's Navy. It represents each one of us, our hopes, dreams, aspirations, and ambitions as a maritime nation.
Anchored in tradition, driven by technology, powered by valor. The Indian Navy sails ahead, securing the seas and shaping India's destiny with every wave. Indian Navy, combat ready. Credible, cohesive, and a future-ready force, safeguarding national maritime interest, anytime, anywhere, anyhow. Indian Navy, waves of power.
The Naval Air Arm is a technology-intensive force. To stay abreast with the latest global technological developments and to remain ahead of the threat curve, the Air Arm is on the path of modernization through indigenization to become a self-reliant force. Accordingly, the theme for today's seminar is Transition to Atmanirbhar Indian Naval Aviation 2047 and its associated ecosystem. The event flow for today's seminar is as shown on the screen. The chief guest for today is Sri Sanjay Seth, Honorable Raksha Raj Mantri. The moderator for the seminar is Admiral Karamveer Singh, Chairman, National Maritime Foundation and former Chief of the Naval Staff. Today, we have 5 eminent speakers from different fields of experience covering a broad spectrum on this subject. As a precursor to the discussions planned today, let us take you through the Indian Naval Aviation Vision 2047, which has been curated keeping our national vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat 2047.
It begins with a roar, a streak of power across the endless blue, a force that watches, protects, and dominates. Indian Naval Aviation, sentinels of the oceans, guardians of the skies. As India marches towards 100 years of independence, its future-ready naval air arm stands as a symbol of strength and self-reliance. The future promises even greater heights. AI-driven operations will enhance decision-making. Advanced drones like HAIL and HAPS operating at high altitude will expand surveillance, and carrier-borne stealth fighters will execute precision strikes. Swarm drones, hypersonic weapons, and autonomous combat systems will ensure swift and decisive action across every battlefield. The future must be forged through innovation, collaboration, and indigenization. This will require a whole-of-nation approach to realize the Prime Minister's vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat 2047. Indian naval aviation will soar higher, ensuring India's dominance in the Indian Ocean region. Jai Hind!
As we witness, the Naval Air Arm is already on a path of transformation, and I'm sure all of us want to be part of this journey to realize this vision of 2047. We now await arrival of our chief guest. May I once again remind you to kindly put your phones into flight mode, please, or preferably switch it off. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the chief guest, Honorable Raksha Raj Mantri. Honorable Raksha Raj Mantri Sri Sanjay Seth, Admiral Dinesh Kumar Tripathi, Param Visist Seva Medal, Ati Visist Seva Medal, Nausena Medal, the Chief of the Naval Staff, Admiral Karamveer Singh, Chairman National Maritime Foundation and former Chief of the Naval Staff, flag officers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and members of the media. I, Commander Vishweshwar Pradhan, welcome you all to the Indian Navy Seminar. The Naval Air Arm plays a crucial role in maritime operations in all three domains, be it surface, subsurface, or air, delivering a formidable punch. Today, Indian Navy is on the course to become a Atmanirbhar Nausena of Viksit Bharat, embracing the reforms to transform its air arm into a technologically advanced and combat-ready force, capable of multi-domain integrated operations. Today's seminar highlights this journey of transformation of the Naval Air Arm and is themed Transition to Atmanirbhar Indian Naval Aviation 2047 and its associated ecosystem. To commence, may I request Admiral Dinesh Kumar Tripathi, Param Visist Seva Medal, Ati Visist Seva Medal, Nausena Medal, the Chief of the Naval Staff, to kindly deliver the inaugural address. Sir, please.
Our Honorable Raksha Raj Mantri, Shri Sanjay Seth Ji, Admiral Karamveer Singh, our 24th Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Srinivas, Flag Officer Commanding in Chief, Southern Naval Command, Vice Admiral Tarun Sopti, Deputy Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral A.N. Pramod, DG Naval Operations, flag officers, industry partners, friends from media, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. At the outset, I would like to extend our sincere gratitude to our Honorable Raksha Raj Mantri for gracing this seminar, sir. Your presence here is a symbol of the confidence and trust we repose in the Indian industry. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of Aero India 2025 could not be more eloquently captured. The evolving nature of war fighting across domains, but particularly in the air domain and at sea. Whilst the organizers have aptly titled the Aero India as runway to billion opportunities, in the naval context, since there are no runways at sea, I would call it catapult to a billion opportunities. And to qualify this, I will explain how naval aviation is poised for a transformative leap. And this will gladden many hearts of naval aviators who are sitting here in the audience and on the desk. Firstly, the air domain at sea is witnessing capabilities unthinkable even a decade back. From an exclusive domain of manned aircraft, it is now a multi-dimensional battle space across kinetic and non-kinetic capabilities. Unmanned and autonomous systems are operating from the sea level till the stratosphere. For example, HALE and HAVS platforms can provide persistent surveillance over millions of square miles in a single mission. At the tactical level, ship launch systems are providing extended over-the-horizon awareness to the platforms at sea. High-precision, high-loiter systems are creating persistent aerial threats. Swarms are creating new opportunities and dilemmas amongst competing planners. Secondly, we are witnessing an unprecedented democratization of the air domain. In the past, credible naval aviation capabilities required immense industrial capacity, deep tactical expertise, and years of investment. Today, that barrier has eroded. Commercially available systems, outfitted with off-the-shelf sensors and connected to a commercial satellite network, now allow even non-state actors to deploy capable aerial platforms at sea, and we have been witnessing this for the past at least 3 or 4 years. Coupled with the fact that software is constantly upgrading what some hardware can do, innovation is occurring at the speed of thought. And finally, there is unprecedented expansion in the canvas of capabilities at sea. Beyond traditional ISR and precision strikes, aerial platforms are acting as communication relays, unmanned refueling tankers, jamming platforms, tethered aerostats, amongst others. Logistics for accelerated delivery, scientific research, oceanography, and SAR support are other capabilities contributing to naval air domain. In sum, there is significant increment in the scale, synthesis, and scope of capabilities in the maritime air domain, which is why I say that the industry is witnessing a catapult to billion opportunities. To fully capitalize on the expansive opportunities, I would invite the domestic industry to work with us to invent, innovate, indigenize, and integrate solutions. For the Navy, industry is not about products, but about partnerships. Not about companies, but about collaborations. Our engagement with the industry transcends mere capability acquisition. It is about working to secure a decisive war-fighting advantage. And we aim to accomplish this indigenously because Atmanirbharta in defense sector today is a strategic necessity for us. Recent conflicts are testimony to the need for a robust domestic defense industry. Today, the domestic sector stands at a pivotal moment of opportunity, driven by government's clear vision, Ministry of Defense enabling policies, frameworks, and a clear roadmap which the Navy will release today. Our indigenous defense production has crossed 1.25 lakh crores, with 20% coming from the private sector. Defense exports have hit 21,000 crores, with 60% contributed by the private sector. By 2029, the government aims for a 3 lakh crore indigenous production and 50,000 crores of exports. These are significant opportunities for the domestic defense industry as we march towards the Atmanirbharta. Here I would like to suggest few mantras that the domestic industry may consider for its approach. Firstly, the uniqueness of the naval air domain and therefore the need to tailor capabilities to the demanding environment at sea. Secondly, the rapidly transforming tech space and the imperative to reduce time frames for design, development, deployment, derivatives, and disposal. And lastly, the importance of comprehensively integrating each capability into the broader war-fighting ecosystem. I am confident that today's seminar would offer several opportunities to converge and collaborate on these issues. Your Navy, the Indian Navy, is steadfastly committed to supporting domestic industry and creating a conducive ecosystem for capability development. To conclude, I would like to once again express my gratitude to the Honorable Raksha Raj Mantri for his presence. My sincere thanks to Admiral Karamveer Singh and all our panelists and speakers who have joined us today. I wish the seminar all success. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Jai Hind, Saman Varna.
Thank you, sir. As we embark on the year of reforms, the Naval Air Arm is set to transform and modernize through indigenization and has prepared a vision document named Atmanirbhar Indian Naval Aviation Technology Roadmap 2047, which charts the course to realize this vision of becoming Atmanirbhar Force of Viksit Bharat. May I request Flag Officer Commanding in Chief, Southern Naval Command, Deputy Chief of the Naval Staff, Assistant Chief of the Naval Staff, Air, to kindly join us on stage for the book release. May I request Honorable Raksha Raj Mantri to kindly release the vision document. Ladies and gentlemen, the Atmanirbhar Indian Naval Aviation Technology Roadmap 2047. May I request all dignitaries to kindly take their seat, please. The vision document will serve as a catalyst to our R&D organizations, innovators, industry partners, and academia to work towards realizing this vision of making Naval Air Arm a formidable force ready to deliver anytime, anywhere, anyhow. May now request Honorable Raksha Raj Mantri to kindly deliver the keynote address.
Admiral Dinesh Tripathi, Chief of Naval Staff, Admiral Karamveer Singh Ji, Vice Admiral Srinivas Ji, Vice Admiral Tarun Sopti Ji, Rear Admiral Janak Bevli Ji, Senior Officers, Flag Officers, Ladies and Gentlemen, Media के मित्रों, India is strategically poised to play a vital role in the emerging world through the geostrategic location, economic researches, stable governance, and initiative in indigenous capability development. India also keeps propelling on peaceful coexistence and emerging world as a family. At the same time, recent conflicts have demonstrated that a strong and credible defense forces, duly supported by contemporary platform equipment, and essential for a strong and vibrant nation. सबसे पहले मैं इंडियन नेवी को शुभकामना देना चाहूंगा कि हमने गुलामी गिरी की, जो छाप, जो प्रतीक को छोड़ा है और छत्रपति शिवाजी महाराज के राज मुद्रा के चिन्ह को भारतीय नौसेना ने अपनाया, ये मैं आपको दिल से आपका आभार व्यक्त करना चाहूंगा। Over the past decade, the thirst record by Government of India Atmanirbhar Bharat has resulted in enhancement indigenous defense production in public and private sector, upskilling of manpower and infrastructure to absorb latest technology and building up strong and credible defense forces. आत्मनिर्भर भारत भारत आज आत्मनिर्भर बन रहा है, दुनिया की सबसे बड़ी 5वीं आर्थिक शक्ति। और वो आर्थिक शक्ति ये कि हर क्षेत्र में हम आत्मनिर्भर हो रहे हैं। डिफेंस सेक्टर 70% आत्मनिर्भर। आज से कुछ साल पहले आप याद करो कि हम कहां थे, और आज दुनिया भारतीय सेना को, भारतीय डिफेंस सेक्टर को देख रही है, और उस पे इंडियन नेवी दुनिया के सबसे सर्वश्रेष्ठ 10 नौसेना में किसी का स्थान है तो भारतीय नौसेना का है। और भारतीय नौसेना ने लगभग 70% आत्मनिर्भरता पर अपना झंडा गाड़ा है। यह हम सब के लिए एक गौरव का विषय है। The skilled force in India created over the year through various government initiatives and collaboration with academia and industry has resulted in creation of a thriving innovation ecosystem led by startups in emerging niche technology. I must compliment the Indian Navy in releasing the Atmanirbhar Indian Naval Aviation Technology Roadmap 2047. आपने कोई किताब लॉन्च नहीं की है, आपने धरातल पर उतारा है। और प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी का सपना, संकल्प कि भारत की आजादी की जब 100 साल होंगे, 2047 दुनिया का सर्वश्रेष्ठ राष्ट्र, दुनिया की सबसे सर्वश्रेष्ठ नौसेना, यह संकल्प आपने लिया है। और आप सब उसके ब्रांड एम्बेसडर हो। और टीम के कप्तान हमारे दिनेश त्रिपाठी जी, 2047 आज से 22 साल बाद, आज जो बच्चा स्टार्टअप में 20 साल 22 साल है, वो कल 35-40 साल का हो जाएगा। और उस यंग एंटरप्रेन्योर को हम नया सर्वश्रेष्ठ भारत देंगे। और उस आत्मनिर्भर भारत के लिए 140 करोड़ देशवासी और विकसित भारत का संकल्प को पूरा करने के लिए, चाहे डिफेंस सेक्टर हो, चाहे हमारा खेत में काम करने वाला किसान हो, चाहे मजदूर हो, 140 करोड़ देशवासी एक साथ खड़े होकर कि हमने जो ठाना है वो करके दिखाया है। हमने दुनिया को कहा करो योग रहो निरोग, दुनिया ने अपना लिया। हमने आह्वान किया 2023 मिलेट वर्स, मोटा अनाज खाओ स्वस्थ रहोगे, दुनिया ने उसको अपना लिया। हम लगातार दुनिया को राह दिखा रहे। और हम कह सकते हैं कि आज नंबर डिफेंस मैन्युफैक्चरिंग इंडस्ट्री वर्ल्ड ओवर कैन solely depend on the demands of its own defense forces. There is a requirement to participate in the global demand for continuous utilization of manufacturing infrastructure and also to keep up with the latest technology. हम किसी से पीछे नहीं रहे। दुनिया दिश और बड़ी है। हम आगे के 25 साल की सोचें। हमने बचपन से देखा है पंचवर्षीय योजना, 5 साल की योजना बनती थी देश में। अब हमारी कल्पना, देश की कल्पना एक आज से 22 साल बाद की है। यह देश की प्रगति का सूचक है। To support the export norms have been rationalized by the government of defense exports, have recorded a 30-fold quantum leap of the past 10 years and are expected to grow further. आप अंदाजा लगा लो मित्रों, with Indian defense exports reaching more than 85 countries, India's defense industry has shown capability for design and development for the world, with around 100 firms exporting defense products with the made in India tag. हम छोटे थे, हमको याद था कि दुनिया में हमारे यहां छोटी से छोटी बीमारी होती थी तो उसके लिए हमको इंतजार करना पड़ता था कि दुनिया हमको वैक्सीन देगी। दुनिया अपने को सुरक्षित कर लेती थी, उसके 20 साल बाद हमको वैक्सीन मिलती थी। भारत की ताकत देखो, यह नया भारत है मित्रों। न रुकता है, न झुकता है, न पीठ दिखाता है। नया भारत का कमाल देखो। हमने अपने को सुरक्षित तो किया ही, दुनिया से 118 देशों को वैक्सीन हमने दिया। ये भारत की ताकत है। आज से कुछ साल पहले हम तो डिफेंस सेक्टर के लिए हम दुनिया के आगे हाथ पसारते थे, और आज नया भारत का कमाल देखो। 85 देशों से ऊपर सैन्य उपकरण भारत एक्सपोर्ट कर रहा है। यह नया भारत है। This is a testament to potential and quality of defense products in the country, duly supported by enable environment and policy framework. An effort are not just meant for India alone, but they are open offer to joint partnership in R&D and defense production to the leading companies in the world. History teaches us that aviation assets have a large impact on the outcome of any conflict, and the nation with strong aviation component, its defense arsenal can affect the battle on land, at sea, or in the air. Given the size of Indian armed forces and diverse range of aviation capabilities that need to be developed, the involvement of private sector therefore becomes more important. India's economic resurgence, government initiative of forward-leaning approach, and the driving force behind the favorable defense ecosystem in the country. मेरा यह मानना है कि हमारा जो स्टार्टअप है, जो हमारा एमएसएमई सेक्टर है, उसके बिना हम 100% आत्मनिर्भर नहीं हो सकते। हमको एमएसएमई सेक्टर को आगे बढ़ाना है, स्टार्टअप को आगे बढ़ाना है, और तभी आज हमारी जो इंडियन नेवी है, 23,000 करोड़ से बना युद्धपोत। कल्पना करो मित्रों, हमारे पास युद्धपोत था, हम उस पे इंपोर्ट करके लाए थे। लेकिन आज नेवी का अपना युद्धपोत, इतना बड़ा मैसेज हिंदुस्तान को नहीं पूरी दुनिया को हमने दिया। यही आत्मनिर्भरता का सूचक है। Our aerospace sector is well poised and grow and take in future challenges. लगातार 3 दिनों से दुनिया भर के देशों से बायलैटरल मीटिंग हो रही है। बायलैटरल मीटिंग्स में दुनिया भर के जो राजनयिक हैं, जो डिफेंस सेक्टर के लोग हैं, जनरल्स हैं, वो बधाई दे रहे हैं। उन्होंने हिंदुस्तान की डिफेंस की ताकत देखी और कहते हैं ना, जो दिखता है वही बिकता है। हमने ताकत का एहसास कराया और एरो इंडिया 25 has showcased the capability of Indian defense industry. I invite global investors to defense manufacture to participate and benefit from the golden era of defense manufacturing in India. दुनिया आपकी ओर देख रही है और जो एरो इंडिया का जो शोकेस है, जहां हम अपनी ताकत दिखा रहे, वहीं हम अपनी आत्मनिर्भरता दिखा रहे। जहां दुनिया पहले भारत को हल्के में लेती थी, आज दुनिया इस एरो शो के माध्यम से, एरो इंडिया के माध्यम से, आप सबके मेहनत से, मैं दिनेश त्रिपाठी जी को सैल्यूट करना चाहूंगा, ऑफिसर्स को सैल्यूट करना चाहूंगा। आप सबकी मेहनत, आप सबकी लगन, डेडिकेशन, राष्ट्र प्रथम, नेशन फर्स्ट, उस लगन से काम कर रहे। हम सब घरों में रात में 9 बजे चले जाते घर। 140 करोड़ देशवासी सुरक्षित हैं आपके चलते, आपकी मेहनत, आपका डेडिकेशन। जो सीमा पर वीर जवान गश्त कर रहे, जो समुद्र में गश्त कर रहे, जो हवा में गश्त कर रहे, ऐसे वीर सैनिकों का मेरा बहुत सैल्यूट है, देशवासियों की ओर से सैल्यूट है। I have just witnessed Indian Navy efforts in the India Pavilion giving a flip to Make in India initiative. I given to understand that there were about 50 exhibits for the pavilion, but only 18 could be showcased due to paucity of space. This is a testament of engagement undertaken by Indian Navy with the defense manufacturer to promoting Atmanirbhar Bharat. I'm aware that Indian Navy has 60 ships under construction in various Indian shipyards, but today I am also impressed by the impetus being given towards the indigenization efforts of naval aviation. I am given to understand that the Indian Navy has developed a testing evaluation facility in Goa for testing deck-based higher aircraft, which is unique and available only with a handful of countries. और मैं दिनेश त्रिपाठी जी को, उनकी टीम को मैं शुभेच्छा चाहूंगा। पिछले महीने आपके नेतृत्व में प्रधानमंत्री जी के द्वारा जो मुंबई में आईएनएस सूरत, आईएनएस नीलगिरी, सबमरीन आईएनएस वाक्सीर राष्ट्र को समर्पित किया। देश के 140 करोड़ देशवासियों का विश्वास बढ़ा आप पर। दुनिया ने आपकी ताकत को देखा। भारतीय नौसेना एक छोटे से सफर को आज एक लंबी लकीर भारतीय नौसेना ने खींची है। मैं पूरे नौसेना परिवार को अपनी ओर से बहुत बहुत बधाई देना चाहूंगा। मेक इन इंडिया के तहत पिछले दशक के नौसेना में 33 जहाजों का और 7 सबमरीन का समावेश हुआ। इसमें 40 में से 39 आत्मनिर्भर है। इससे बड़ा प्रमाण आत्मनिर्भरता का क्या हो सकता है? और अब वह दिन दूर नहीं त्रिपाठी जी, वह दिन दूर नहीं जब आपके नेतृत्व में इंडियन डिफेंस सेक्टर सर उठाकर बोल सकता है कि भारतीय नौसेना 100% आत्मनिर्भर हो चुकी है। यह आपके नेतृत्व में होगा। I would like to compliment Indian Navy for being a front runner in making India and promoting Atmanirbhar Bharat initiatives. Besides indigenization of ships from aircraft carrier to small patrol vessels, submarines, Indian Navy had taken a big leap of indigenization of aviation platform, ranking for fighter aircraft, maritime reconnaissance aircraft, helicopter, unmanned aerial platform. मित्रों, हम सबको एक ही गोल, जब अर्जुन से पूछा गया, वीर अर्जुन से, क्या देख रहे हो आप? तीर कमान में चढ़ा लियो। अर्जुन ने नहीं कहा था कि हम मछली देख रहे हैं। अर्जुन ने नहीं कहा था कि हम आंख देख रहे हैं, चेहरा देख, नहीं। अर्जुन ने कहा हम आंख की पुतली देख रहे हैं। 140 करोड़ देशवासी 2047 का लक्ष्य लेकर चले हैं। वो लक्ष्य हम पूरा करेंगे। ये कमिटमेंट है, ये कमिटमेंट है हम सबका। आने वाली पीढ़ी को, संपन्न राष्ट्र, आने वाली पीढ़ी को एक ऐसा देश जो पीछे मुड़ने वाला नहीं। और मैं कह सकता हूं, these initiatives would yield great result in the near future towards releasing self-reliance or defense platform. Aero India 25 has brought the users and defense manufacturers on the same platform to realize Indian stature of the global stage among pioneers in the aerospace development and manufacturing. मैं पुनः आप सबको बधाई देते हुए मैं 4 लाइन जरूर बोलता हूं कि जिस प्यारे न्यारे तिरंगे के लिए लाखों सैनिकों का बलिदान, जिस प्यारे तिरंगे को लेकर 140 करोड़ देशवासी उस तिरंगे के सम्मान और उस तिरंगे की रक्षा के लिए आप लगातार मेहनत, समर्पण, मैं आप सबको सैल्यूट करता हूं। और जब देश का नागरिक, चाहे वो सीमा पे बैठा हुआ हो, चाहे गांव में कोई बैठा हुआ हो, वो जब कहता है भारत माता की जय, भारत माता की जय, चाहे विक्रम बत्रा, मनोज पांडे, तो शरीर में ऊर्जा आती है। भारत माता जय कहने से एक राष्ट्र का में एक लहू में ज्वार, तभी हमारे प्रिय कवि हृदय सम्राट अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी ने कहा था कि देशवासियों, भारत माता की जय क्या है? जब मैं मरूंगा तो मेरी अस्थियां जब गंगा में प्रवाहित होंगी तो लहर में, जब गंगा में प्रवाहित लहरों में भी कान लगा लेना, उसमें आज से आवाज आएगी, भारत माता की जय, भारत माता की जय, भारत माता की जय। और श्रद्धेय अटल जी ने कहा था, यह वंदन की भूमि है, यह वंदन की भूमि, अभिनंदन की भूमि है। यह भारत है मित्रों, यह कोई धरती का टुकड़ा नहीं है, यह भारत की भूमि है, यह वंदन की भूमि है, अभिनंदन की भूमि है, तर्पण की भूमि है, अर्पण की भूमि है। यहां की नदी नदी गंगा है, यहां का कंकड़ कंकड़ शंकर है। हम जिएंगे तो भारत के लिए, तो मरेंगे भी भारत के लिए। यह है भारत माता, यह है भारत। आज इस मौके पर आप सबका अभिनंदन। मैं तो कहता हूं कि ईश्वर को देखो क्या मंजूर था। मैं एनसीसी का कैडेट होता था रांची में 1968, 69, 70 में। इच्छा थी कि भारतीय फौज का हिस्सा बने, लेकिन तकदीर कहां किसको कहां ले जाता है पता नहीं। लेकिन हम सनातनी हैं, हम विश्वास करते हैं पुनर्जन्म में। त्रिपाठी जी पुनर्जन्म में विश्वास करते हैं? करमवीर जी, तो मेरा ईश्वर से प्रार्थना है पुनर्जन्म देना तो भारत की भूमि पर पुनर्जन्म करना, और पुनर्जन्म जब होगा तो भारतीय फौज का हिस्सा बनाना। ईश्वर से मैं प्रार्थना करता हूं। चलिए इस मौके पर आप सब अधिकारीगणों का, मीडिया के मित्रों का अभिनंदन करके अपनी बात समाप्त करता हूं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। जय हिंद।
Thank you, sir, for your insightful and inspiring address. Your words reaffirm the dedication of the Indian Navy towards national security. We assure you, sir, that Indian Navy remains committed to transform and modernize through indigenization under your visionary leadership. Thank you, sir. May I now request Chief of the Naval Staff to kindly felicitate the Chief Guest. Sir, please. Thank you, sir. May I request everyone to kindly take their seat, please? To continue with the proceedings of the seminar, the moderator for today's seminar is Admiral Karambir Singh, Chairman, National Maritime Foundation and former Chief of the Naval Staff. With an illustrious career in the Navy spanning over 4 decades, he is a seasoned helicopter pilot with extensive experience in maritime operations and strategic planning. Post-retirement, he continues to advocate for India's maritime interests and provides expert guidance to think tanks and institutions. We could not have thought of a better moderator for this seminar. Sir, may I please request you to come on stage to continue with the proceedings of the seminar. May I also request the first 3 speakers to take their seat on the stage, please. Captain Amit Bera, Commodore Jaideep Malankar, and Mr. Venkat Raju. So may I now request the moderator to take on the proceedings of the seminar, sir.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah. CNC South, Deputy Chief, DGNO, a warm welcome to all of you to this panel discussion on transition to Atmanirbhar Indian Naval Aviation 2047 and its associated ecosystem. That's the topic for our discussion today. So, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to make 2 quick points before I open the floor to our eminent speakers in this panel. And these points are not there in the terms of reference, but just some thoughts to sort of set the scene. First, there's a difference between self-sufficiency and self-reliance. Self-sufficiency means producing all military equipment domestically, completely relying on internal capabilities. And there are some staunch supporters of self-sufficiency that I have met. They mostly speak from a very emotive, nationalistic plank, claiming that since defense is a critical and strategic sector, it needs to be protected through complete self-sufficiency. But to my mind, self-sufficiency in defense in India may not be feasible, nor practical. Considering our manufacturing ecosystem, despite what people say, I feel it will be counterproductive. We can't live in subsidized bunkers. It would be inefficient and expensive, undermining prosperity and, most importantly, national security. So resilience also comes from diversification of supply chains, not concentration at home. This is self-sufficiency. But self-reliance, on the other hand, implies the ability to meet defense needs through a mix of domestic production and strategic imports, prioritizing definitely indigenous development, while still potentially sourcing certain technologies from abroad when necessary. And self-reliance is achieved by creating an environment for growth and also being part of the global supply chain. And to my mind, this is the way to go. Atmanirbharta, if you translate it into English, it means self-reliance. And our government, to my mind, hopefully, is following this path. My second point, so this is about self-sufficiency and self-reliance. The second point is that aerospace is a technologically intensive sector, and technological superiority, sovereignty, reliance, etc., they matter greatly. And when we talk of self-reliance or Atmanirbharta in aerospace, we need to understand that achieving this self-reliance is a complex and multi-layered undertaking. And we in the armed forces and indeed naval aviation have a complex mix. This is another factor that we have to consider. We have a complex mix of legacy, contemporary, and emerging platforms, systems, and technologies to deal with. And on top of that, an important point is that technology is a moving target. It's not that it's moving, it's constantly evolving. As per Moore's law, you must be knowing about it. And what is contemporary today becomes legacy pretty quickly. So a lot of questions come to mind. How do we strategize if disruption and disruptive technology is the name of the game? How do we focus on our R&D, for instance, to keep up with advances in technology and manufacturing? Can we, siloize or focus MSMEs to do reverse engineering, legacy and even contemporary products, startups to focus on innovation, and DRDO, Indian primes, PSUs to focus on R&D and value add? But I don't think it's that simple. There are several other factors that come in mind. Are our PSUs and private industry investing enough in R&D? I've read reports that at least the private industry is not investing enough in R&D. It's not only money, it is much more than, it's called the R&D intensity, which includes who you hire, how many PhD people you hire, how much money you spend, all those other issues, how many patents are pushed out by private industry. So questions come to mind, will we ever be able to become the world aerospace technology leaders, providing the likes of open fan engines or impulse cartridge boosting jet aero engines to Mark 6 or hydrogen powered scramjets before others can? How do we build self-reliance through collaborative indigenization with foreign OEMs and initiatives like Indus-X? It's a very laudable initiative through co-development, co-production. So these are several questions that come to mind. How does government enable a faster process of getting products? Because you can't have this kind of time lag between technology and products coming in. So these are several questions that come to mind, and I'm sure that our panel and the discussions to follow will demystify these issues. And my last point is, when I went through the terms of reference given to me for the speakers in this panel discussion, and I was quite refreshing to see that naval aviation as a user is asking hard questions and seeking honest feedback on the challenges, barriers, and asks from all the stakeholders in naval aviation's march to Atmanirbharta. And this is a refreshing change, and I think we must compliment Rear Admiral Janak Bevely and his team for curating such a discussion. If you see the acronym, it's AINA-47. AINA in Hindi means mirror. So they are asking the stakeholders, please show us the mirror. I think this is a very good sign. So with this introduction and without any further ado, let's start with the proceedings. We have 5 very eminent speakers. We have 3, then thereafter 2 more will join us. They'll speak to us for 15 minutes each. There's no buzzer, but I'll give you an indication at about 14 minutes. After all our 5 speakers have spoken, we'll have a Q&A for about 25 minutes. So with that, I'll turn to the first speaker. He's a serving naval officer, Captain Amit Bera, who's presently the Chief Test Pilot and Commanding Officer of Indian Navy's Naval Flight Test Squadron. Is it school or squadron? Squadron, because in your biodata is written school. So in this appointment, he has initiated several design development projects and work closely with designers in progressing design ideas to products, many of which form part of the Naval Aviation Roadmap or Vision 2047. He has steered many development projects, indigenous development projects, and their integration with fleet assets. The Naval Flight Test Squadron, and I've been to the squadron, it's an excellent and very vibrant organization under his leadership, has been a one-stop solution for all studies, analyses, and trials towards expanding capabilities of the Indian Naval Air Arm. So Captain Bera would be sharing with us his vision of Atmanirbhar Indian Naval Aviation 2047. Over to you.
Thank you for the kind words of introduction, sir. Admiral Dinesh Kumar Tripathi, PVSM, AVSM, NM, the Chief of the Naval Staff, flag officers, distinguished guests, officers, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning to you all. It's indeed an absolute honor to stand before this august gathering today and present the Indian Naval Aviation's Technology Roadmap of 2047. A roadmap forging towards technological excellence, innovation, indigenization, and self-reliance. And Mark the word, sir. I use self-reliance because I quite foresee and I agree that self-reliance is the way to move forward. Self-reliance to ensure India's dominance in Indian Ocean region and beyond. I'll cover this vast canvas in 3 sections, namely ends, which will define what we must achieve, the key mission capabilities, the operational objectives, the challenges, and the design drivers. In the section ways, I will define the concepts, the technologies, and assets that we envision to achieve these ends. And through the means, I will bring forth the long-term strategies to implement the roadmap and some immediate lines of actions that will make this vision a reality. To envision the Indian Naval Aviation of 2047, we must first explore the key mission capabilities and strategic objectives. Comprehensive maritime domain awareness through exhaustive surveillance of the area of responsibility to maintain a real-time common operating plot is arguably the most critical capability. Ability to strike precisely and timely from standoff ranges across all domains, including land and subsurface, will be the holy grail. The ability to strike must be supported by the ability to maintain an impenetrable air and missile defense shield around the fleet. The rapidly evolving underwater threat in IOR necessitates Indian Navy to build a very robust ASW capability. In addition, the humanitarian capabilities of undertaking CASEVAC, MEDEVAC, SAR, and HADR globally as a first responder will remain key mission capabilities. Equipped with these mission capabilities, Naval Aviation of 2047 will be key enabler for our objectives of securing the national maritime interests and achieving sea control and battle space dominance and maintaining a comprehensive domain awareness at all times. These mission capabilities and maritime objectives are, however, faced with 2 distinct set of challenges, both born out of the maritime geography which so empowers us as well. The operational challenges include complexity of surveillance and classification due to the vast area of interest and the presence of non-combatants and neutrals. Detection and classification of threat is therefore the needle in a haystack conundrum for naval aviation. Concurrently, reach and speed of response and interdiction is a key defining factor in the battle space. The vast area of responsibility poses daunting challenges to our ability to strike and intercept in time. The naval environment and integration of aircraft with ships comes with its own set of unique challenges, which require highest level of engineering and stringent testing standards. The saline and humid marine environment requires every equipment on board aircraft to be engineered to withstand harsh conditions like salt, humidity, and extreme temperatures. Aircraft operations from constantly rolling, pitching, and yawing decks require unparalleled precision for aircraft handling, as well as maintenance on board. The shock loads experienced during arrested landings and the landing of helicopters on deck are immense, which requires distinct engineering effort and design approach. Last, but probably the most complex, designing aircraft and systems to mitigate the EMI-EMC hazard in radiation zones around the ships. Let me now take the opportunity to touch upon few suggested key design drivers, which must be factored while designing future systems. Future platform designs must be payload-centric and capable of integrating modular weapon and sensor suits, allowing rapid reconfiguration for different roles. Seamlessly networked and interoperable naval air assets will be the key to dominance in future battle space. The future assets and systems must be designed for reduced workload and human resource efficiency. Both in operations as well as maintenance must be very high. Predictive maintenance based on AI-driven health and usage monitoring systems to ensure minimal downtime and maximum cost efficiency would be critical design imperatives. Core aircraft systems must adopt open architecture and standardized protocols, enabling modularity and future upgradability. Standardizations of systems across platforms data security, and environmental sustainability are other important design drivers that must be considered. The future developments must also build robust MRO ecosystem parallelly and also create a strong and agile supply chain to ensure operational sustainability and self-reliance. And to round up the design drivers, the future concepts must be capable of rapidly scaling up production during conflicts. Having seen the end states, challenges, and design drivers, let us now dive into the specifics of Atmanirbhar Indian Naval Aviation Technology Roadmap 2047, which was released today by the Honorable Raksha Rajya Mantri. The document is aimed at providing a clear vision of the future naval aviation to our development partners and act as a catalyst for the pioneering research. Acting on the payload centricity, let's first discuss the weapons and sensors envisioned. Outcome of future battles will be defined by the speed, precision, and lethality of future weapons, supported by potent sensor grid. Towards this, in addition to many ongoing missile programs and weapon programs, Indian Navy aims at inducting airborne hypersonics and ballistic weapons to outrun and outmaneuver the enemy. And this has to be done from standoff ranges to capitalize on the smallest windows of opportunity. Reusability, concurrently with lethality, is the way forward in weapons. Airborne directed energy weapons for defense against missiles and imminent drone swarms is thus an important future capability. Air-launched drone swarms, autonomous loiter munitions would afford credible means to overwhelm enemy air defenses and undertake precision strikes in full-scale wars as well as low-intensity conflicts. In addition to the ongoing torpedo programs, naval aviation seeks a major enhancement in range and speed of anti-submarine strikes through induction of rocket-assisted torpedoes. A major fillip to the weapon-to-target matching through development of missiles with reconfigurable warheads, fuses, and homing heads is also envisioned. In the field of advanced sensors, ASA-based fire control radar for fighters, AW radar for deck-based helicopters, low-swap maritime patrol radar for HAPS and drones, wide area capable EOIR systems with change detection, low-frequency dunking sonar, and multistatic active coherent sonobuoys are critical sensors which requires intense focus of the industry. A future-ready naval air arm must evolve into a balanced fleet of manned and unmanned systems, both long-range shore-launched as well as carrier-based platforms, to dominate the battle space. Fifth-generation deck-based fighter will be the most effective means of sea power, power projection, and fleet air defense. The future naval fighter design must be anchored on network centricity, collaborative and standoff strike, including manned-unmanned teaming capability, rapid multi-role adaptability, survivability, and high availability. Additionally, indigenous carrier-borne systems, including catapult system, are concurrent future requirements. To complement the fifth-generation fighter, enhancement of AW bubble around the fleet must be met through development of indigenous carrier-borne AW&C aircraft. Indian Navy aims at self-reliance in long and medium-range maritime patrol and ASW aircraft as well, which should be a key focus area for the defense industry. In addition to ongoing programs of utility helicopters, induction of deck-based multi-role helicopters for anti-submarine, anti-surface, AW, and utility roles is an ongoing quest and needs urgent thrust from the industry, and also aims at inducting amphibious aircraft and integral air-to-air refuelers for its expanding fleet. Naval aviation aims at maximizing the use of unmanned systems for dull, dirty, dangerous, and dear tasks. In addition to indigenous hail and mail drones, we aim at inducting shipborne multi-role drones and carrier-borne fixed-wing UAVs for independent as well as man-unmanned teaming capabilities. The HAPS would be inducted as the mainstay in ultra-endurance assets. Additionally, unmanned refueling drones will also be integrated to meet deck-based air-to-air refueling requirements. Information is transforming from an enabler to a battle space in itself. Naval aviation envisions dominate the space by transitioning to a fully networked force. The critical future capabilities to meet this vision are indigenous software-defined radios with seamless cross-service interoperability to counter data threats, spectrum congestion, and enemy jamming. By 2047, Indian Navy also aims to induct cognitive capabilities in SDRs. High-speed, low-latency, secure data links, interoperable across all assets and services, will be the backbone of combat network. Additionally, methods to extend footprint and redundancy of the data link is another crucial development area, such as the satellite-based secure communication networks. While Indian Navy has been a pioneer in harnessing satellites for communication and data link, the future will see the solar power HAPS augmenting these roles. While these systems will enhance the swath and speed of network, Navy also aims at inducting quantum encryption systems to secure these data networks. Well, some would say that is a very tall ask, but the rapidity and surety with which the defense industry has responded to the clarion call of Atmanirbharta makes us supremely buoyant of fructifying this vision. Let us now take a look at some proposed strategies and approaches which can make this vision a reality. While the distant gaze must remain tenaciously trained on maximum self-reliance, the naval aviation vision will have to strike a mature balance between indigenous and collaborative developments in shorter time frame. To achieve self-reliance in complete platform manufacture, we need to increase private sector participation in full-scale aircraft production and not just components. The C295 model must therefore be replicated across other platforms as well. A large pool of private and public players should be competitively pitched in design and development, midlife upgrade, and maintenance, repair, and overhaul. This will spread the workload across DRDO, DPSUs, and private players, ensuring time and cost efficiency. Indian Navy has always considered the industry as partners and not just vendors. We intend to handhold our partners from concept to product stage with zeal and enthusiasm. While we have evidently been behind the curve in current technology revolution, it's imperative that we invest funds and faith heavily on leapfrogging to future core technologies like AI, quantum computing, advanced materials in metallurgy, rapid manufacturing processes, robotics and automation, sustainable aviation fuels, and blockchain technology. Certification standards in aviation are critical for safety, but are tremendously expensive and resource intensive. A national framework and policy towards setting up of world-leading test facilities and sponsoring certification process for startups and MSMEs would give impetus to products crossing the valley of death. AINA is investing heavily in a robust design and development and flight testing ecosystem as well through operationalizing of the Naval Aircraft Ship Instrumentation and Telemetry Facility, a dedicated node of RCMA for naval projects, and Airborne Weapons and Sensor Integration Lab, which would immensely benefit all developers in converting concepts to certified airworthy products. Rapid prototyping is required to bridge the gap between concept and operational deployment through accelerated design, testing, and iteration cycles. Industry must adopt emerging concepts like a digital twin concept to simulate, refine, and optimize designs before physically producing them. While the future is a work in progress, we must invest in few key immediate areas that will ensure sustenance and self-reliance for the current fleet. Sustenance of existing assets, indigenously through setting up of MRO facilities, in joint collaborations with OEMs, as well as independent, is a key focus area. Additionally, there lies a huge opportunity in diversifying of supplier base and reducing dependencies on single vendors or foreign OEMs. Indigenization of LRUs and spares for foreign origin aircraft must be taken up by the industry as an immediate challenge. And enabling this quest must be a target for certifying agencies like CEMILAC and DGAQA. Operational utility of assets can be enhanced by rapid indigenization of tools, testers, and ground support equipment, many of which require low lead time innovations. Similarly, AINA invites the industry to indigenize all POLs and consumables being used on the current naval aircraft. The combination of these urgent lines of effort and development strategies will ensure sustenance of existing fleet as well as fruition of the Vision 2047. To conclude, Atmanirbhar Indian Naval Aviation Technology Roadmap 2047 encapsulates the priorities of naval aviation, which will guide all stakeholders towards innovation. Indian Navy intends to embark on this visionary path with a whole of nation approach, with participation from policymakers, DRDO, DPSUs, academia, private industry, startups, MSMEs, certification agencies, and flight test agencies. We stand at the shores of a vast sea of opportunities and are set to steer the course to Atmanirbhar Nausena for Viksit Bharat with our partners. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you for laying down this very comprehensive roadmap and with all its drivers, etc. Lots to think about. Payload centricity versus platform, vis-a-vis platform centricity, reconfigurable warheads and fuses, not only 5th generation fighters, but 5th generation warfighting capability. And of course, Atmanirbharta is a whole of government effort. Thank you so much. Our next speaker, Commodore Jaideep Mollankar, Mao as we affectionately call him, not to be confused with Mao Zedong, is a highly respected test pilot of the Indian Navy. He's been closely associated with numerous projects of naval aviation. He's been the chief test pilot for Sea Harriers and of course our indigenous light combat aircraft. He's presently the executive vice president for technology development in aerospace and defense at Messrs. New Space Research and Technologies since April 2022 and has been working on development of a range of autonomous and AI-driven aircraft and weapon systems. And he's currently working on something even I can't figure out what, but the convergence of swarming style warfare, collaborative autonomy and OODA concept, seeking opportunities for enhancement of human capabilities via advanced computation and AI techniques. Anyway, Mao would be speaking to us on the topic Atmanirbharta, characteristics unique to naval aviation. All yours.
Thank you, sir. Admiral Tripathi, my squadron mate, my course mate, flag officers, and this wonderfully diverse audience. I suspect I'm going to leave you thoroughly confused about whether I spoke as a naval officer, as a pilot, or as an innovator, or as a business development guy for some industry. But that is the beauty of being a test pilot. You can claim to speak for whichever side you think the argument makes more sense for. So I intend to cover some issues regarding the overall, the more general Atmanirbharta issue, but I thought I should focus a lot more specifically on Navy and particularly naval aviation aspects. So let me get rid of the core, the basic Atmanirbharta issue. Now we've tried a lot in terms of a lot of detailed tweaking, changing some bank guarantee requirements, or changing some timelines, or changing industrial license requirement. I think the time for that minor tweaking is over. It's not because industry is composed of bad people only interested in profit that this whole thing has not yet yielded the results that we want. We have to accept that it needs a bigger change, a more basic, comprehensive change. Detailed approach is not going to get us the kind of velocity that or momentum that we need to build up in the time frames that we're talking about. We're already on a countdown timer, 22 years. It's already ticking. So let's see what are those one or two big issues that have been bugging us. And this is my personal view, but I think it resonates with several other people who have been trying to approach this from a slightly conceptual angle. The first thing is the definition of Atmanirbharta. Let's accept it is not one thing. It is composed of many, many different aspects. But if we accept that, we must also therefore have a completely different set of rules for each unique category. A disruptive product needs a different kind of funding model. It needs a different kind of acquisition model. It needs a different kind of support from the user, as opposed to something which is just an incremental development on an existing product, or where you're just looking for indigenizing some pre-existing part which has to kind of respect every constraint that is already inherited from the past. You can't have one set of rules to govern all of these, and therefore unless we set out to define unique set of rules for each of these, you're not going to get broad-based development across all of these thrust lines. So too many issues are conflated together. I have been pushing, whenever I'm asked to speak, that we must have a comprehensive definition. I think this should form the topic for, CDM studies, Naval War College studies, whatever it be. At least 1 or 2 students must, be focused on this particular thing. Let's have a good comprehensive definition of all these various types of Atmanirbhar. The second is the business of how requirements are created. Now, I suspect that the current way in which we flesh out our requirements, it actually defines what we want. It doesn't define what we need. So what we want, if you take the technology roadmap that has just been released, I like a good test pilot, we always aspire to be the first in everything. Let me be the first to critique this. Disclaimer, I had a sneak peek at it. I was offered a sneak peek at it earlier. But when you zoom out of it, it actually describes the US Navy of the 80s. This is the whole third offset. All the components of the third offset are what are kind of covered in there. It's a great vision. But if we step back and think of it, that very US Navy also gets put on the back foot by somebody like the Houthis. It forces them to adapt. It forces them to rethink. It forces them to have to scramble to create new technology and reorient their force. And therefore, what is it that is really missing in this whole game? First is, of course, the requirements engineering process. It can't just be a collation of multiple different brochures, and it can't be just a wish list. You can't have only wants reflected as requirements. Why? Because as industry, those become pass or fail criteria for me when it comes to offering my product and having it contracted for. So if you call it a wish list, it's great. If you call it requirements, those very same words become like a roadblock, barrier which prevents you from getting what you need. So want versus need is another thing that we should really discuss in detail. I suspect the immediate solution to it is to revert to problem statements. Let the innovation be done by the people who understand the problem as well as the technologies that are available, rather than leaving it to a desk officer, because if you really think of it, the actual innovation in all our innovation projects, the way they are defined, the innovation is being done by the desk officer in that particular directorate who is defining the requirements. So where is the innovation? There's no space for innovation. Now let's focus on the business model. I want to introduce this business orientation to the Navy. The Navy has been extremely aggressive in implementing all the IDEX programs. That's fantastic. Unfortunately, the IDEX, while it may have started off with great intentions, it kind of last minute it veers off, because it finally develops a very strong product fixation as opposed to being able to support technology development, Atmanirbharta in all its various innovation, etc., in all its various forms. So if you only pay for products, you will only get products. There will be no business case incentive for R&D. Every one of those requirements that was listed out by Captain Bera is a 15-year timeline program. It will basically start producing revenue only after 15 years of development. If you want that to be the product that you want, then you have to fund R&D separately. If you don't fund R&D for its own sake, and by that I just want to make a slightly inflammatory statement that when you say I fund R&D, even if the research proves that concept is unviable, that still is successful R&D. it still closes off and prevents you from wasting time around that avenue. That is something which our current contracting model doesn't allow us. However, benevolent the Navy's attitude may be, basically it only transfers the responsibility onto there, and I can see Janak having to stick his neck out. It shouldn't have to be that any particular ACNS Air or PDNAS has to stick his neck out. Why should he have to stick his neck out? The rules must permit him the subjectivity to be able to support such things. So you will see that all of these kind of things, they still leave you, searching for what is missing still in our whole thing. And you'll realize that that is strategy. The Houthis have a strategy. They have built a force to their specific circumstances, to their specific end goals, however, distasteful they may be, but they seem to have executed a successful strategy. If we are only going to remain reactive, you are never going to be able to build the business case for R&D. Who is the person who is deciding which item to research and which item to develop if there is no, if there is nothing that I can refer to in the strategy to convince the investor that let me develop and invest in this for 15 years. The PhDs, they come at exorbitant salaries. I mean, when I have to interview, I get shocked when I see the kind of offers that are rolled out by our HR departments, because they are, that's the price. If you want talent, you have to pay global salaries. Now, that kind of investment is unjustifiable to the investors until and unless there is something which prevents fickleness on the behalf of the MOD. The MOD must have the stamina to stick with a particular concept, and that will be because they have defined it in a strategy, and not a strategy which was made at the last minute, but something which was well thought through. I understand that technology is a moving target. The competition is, the contest, the conflict. The opponent gets a say. So that itself is an evolving thing. What strategy worked 10 years back will not work. I understand all of that. Therefore, I understand why it is difficult. But until and unless we at least define how we are going to approach it, you can't expect or hope for these long-term investments. More importantly, it also gives you the inbuilt justification to accept the compromises as long as it is doing most of what you wanted it to do, even if it doesn't achieve the letter of a particular thing. That's what I'm harking back to, want versus need. Now, moving on to the second section, which is Navy unique parts of it. I actually tried splitting it up into Navy talking to industry and industry talking to Navy, and then I realized I got thoroughly confused because it's very difficult to partition in your own brain and actually make, think as two separate boxes. So I think the other thing that we would really like to hear from the Navy as industry is, what are the Navy unique aspects? Navy is all about ships. Ships are all about what you sail out with is what you have. Magazine capacities are limited. Now, one way of looking at it is that, therefore, everything must be multi-role, including configurable effect warheads, which is actually extremely high technology. That the default does go towards multi-role, I get it. But multi-role is very easy to define. It actually is intellectual laziness, because no single role product will ever be outclassed. For a comparable level of technology, the single role product will always outclass the multi-role product. This is something, you're always carrying that stepney or that dicky behind your car. If you want to get into a race, do you want to get into it with a sedan with the same engine or a hatchback with the same engine? It's as simple as that. You have to think in these terms of these basic analogies. But if you are proactive, you can even justify this or even use this concept that magazine space is limited. The opponent's magazine space is also limited. And therefore, even a doctrine which wants missile absorbers, that means I send out missile-worthy objects which the opponent is forced to respond to and deplete his magazine, that itself is a completely viable strategy. That product doesn't need to be a all singing, all dancing, PK, probability of kill 95%. It just needs to promise sufficient pain such that the opponent has to dedicate at least one SAM to it. Now, that is what I mean by, how a strategy allows you to derive proper doctrines on the basis of what is affordable, what are the kind of technologies that are available, etc. The next set that which Captain Bera referred to is, Navy unique requirements. While this sounds great and it's part of the mystique of the naval test pilot and the photograph, collar up, that I deal with all these massive shocks. But from a business case, what it does is it makes unique products. Unique products means extra cost. Rafale M is going to cost more than the equivalent Air Force Rafale. The second fact is there are going to be limited acquisition quantities. How do you reconcile this whole thing of the inflated costs, the elevated requirements, the unique developmental efforts that need to be put in for the Navy-specific requirements? Again, the conversation is again started off with let's make AMCA into a naval variant. It's the same lesson. It's the reason for failure of the LCA Navy program. If you want to repeat the same thing all over again and jettison TED-BF and go to AMCA, a naval version of AMCA, you're guaranteed exactly the same results. So this contradiction of your unique requirements, your willingness to pay extra cost, your limited production runs, there is no other carrier-borne Navy whom we can sell to outside, and therefore you'll really have to think of it. I like to think of it as that don't force it into an either or. Don't force it into Rafale or TED-BF. Make it Rafale and TED-BF. Because you spoke of MUMT. I don't think it's going to be easy for us to get our MUMT into the Rafale. We will have to have our own aircraft into which we can push it and experiment. And therefore, I can't make this case more strongly. You have to have your TED-BF whether you have the Rafale or not. You will not have a carrier navy if you do not have the TED-BF. That is something which, unfortunately, is what I see in front of me. The next point which I would just show a mirror to the Navy is we were brought up on three-dimensional Navy. We are supposed to think in terms of three-dimensional kill chains. That means bringing multiple things together. That is the Navy way of solving combat problems. And therefore, we must have the discipline to avoid single element, having to close the complete kill chain. We must be able to look at the overall kill chain, look at which part of it are we trying to solve with what product, and rather than trying to have any one product, complete kill chain. From the ISR to stocking to the launchers to the whole works. In one kill chain, you are basically denying yourself access to rapidly developable combat options that you could get. The industry side of it now, clearly, I'm employed in industry. You hear me talking about UDA. Navy needs to employ guys like this. Otherwise, we will never understand. Industry will never understand what combat operations is all about. I used to joke in ADA that, we're building a carrier-borne aircraft, but if I ask the scientists, what are you building for? What is an aircraft carrier? They'll say it's one big grey thing. They don't understand carrier ops, and therefore they don't have the confidence or the ability to challenge requirements, to really distill what you actually need from what you have expressed as what you want. They don't have it until and unless we have enough white uniforms, enough blue uniforms, enough green uniforms inside product development. That is the reason for success of the Israeli military industry. And if we don't follow that, we are going to deny ourselves a very, very exceptionally valuable resource. Merkava was developed by Israel Tal. He was an armored general. That is why the Merkava is what it is today. It is not the mostest, bestest on any single parameter as compared to the rest of the battle tanks. The Leopard is the absolute gold standard as far as washing machines go. The German washing machines, it just doesn't break. But you can see for yourself which one is helping them win and which one is just another player in the battlefield. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mao. It's a very thought-provoking talk. When innovators go out in the field, whenever they meet me, I keep telling them, look for problems, don't look for solutions. Because if the armed forces people had solutions, they would have told you long back. So look at the problem and you do critical thinking and give us the solution. And a very important point that can we fund technology? Because we are so focused on products. Can we fund technology as a technology rather than always expecting to fund products at all? Also, when I went to DARPA and I asked them what is your success rate, they said 10%. So now if R&D, that's a good success rate for disruptive R&D. And if you got a R&D head, which I don't know whether any IFA is going to accept failure. He expects, or he or she expects success for every thing that you take up. This issue of reconfigurable warheads, I think I tend to agree with him. It's not all singing, all dancing, but the fact is that if you have to have weapons bespoke to the target. So you might have to use different fuses like tandem fuses, and you should have the ability to reconfigure them rather than having different set of weapons for each target. I think that's what you were trying to get at, and very nicely brought out the Israeli model where they use the Talpiot system, where they put in young people through the best of education and then they become innovators and lead defense industry. I think that's the way to go. Thank you. Next speaker, Mr. Venkat Raju, the founder and CMD of VEM Technologies. It's a very vibrant company specializing in systems and system integration activities. And his company is self-sufficient in undertaking design, engineering, R&D, and handles several critical technologies. The company has built state-of-the-art Seeker manufacturing facilities for missiles and is also making steady progress in the field of space technology.
Shifting, right? Yes.
Raju Garu, you'll be speaking to us on the topic infrastructure and indigenization of airborne systems. All yours.
Thank you, sir. Admiral Dinesh Tripathi Garu, Chief of Naval Staff, and Admiral K.B. Singh Garu, Vice Admiral Srinivas Garu, DCNS South, Vice Admiral Supti Garu, DCNS, and Vice Admiral Pramod Garu, DGNO, Rear Admiral Beverly Garu, ACNS, Air. This is actually an honor for me because speaking to the naval aviators on Naval Aviation 2047. Now I think two earlier speakers spoke, one spoke, Amit Bera spoke on what he wants. I think my colleague, is because I'm calling as an industry friend, so therefore he spoke some of my talk, because some of the challenges what industry faces, he has also covered. But I'll be, because whatever Admiral Beverly gave me is some sort of a challenging TOR, but I moderate it as much as possible because there are a lot of conflicts. So, but I can say we are catching up. First point to meet reach your goals. So, my talk is our industry readiness. So first thing is the technological aspect. I want to give with a positive note. We have good experience right now realizing our own LCH, LUH, and RVTD, and then we also have our LCA. And we have realized 200 plus fighters. This has given, some basic infrastructure for us. Maybe industry may not be doing systems currently, but we are catching up in the systems. But we have served, because my experience, I can tell you, as when we started making components for Milan and concours. Now today, we are realizing our own ATGM. I think the same rule applies in aeronautics as well, in aviation. So we expect this particular LCA brought in, besides this industrial experience making processes and systems, subsystems, the LCA has brought a lot of technologies from 1995 to now. We have built a lot of infrastructure, including whatever your deck-based takeoff landing, which we have developed at Goa. Besides that, we have hardware in loop, our Iron Bird, the structural test facilities, then engineer in loop. Like, we have also, a lot of our subsystem can be tested. we have got ASTE. All these facilities we have built because these are the key elements for us to do any system in India. So whatever is available in HAL, I think created by both ADA and HAL together, is actually a big asset for the country. And also we have to appreciate whatever the TOT, whatever we have learned, be it in engine manufacturing, be it in aircraft realization like Sukhoi. Definitely the starting point for us. So we have to appreciate those opportunities, whatever we got through HAL and ADA. Now another important aspect is our AMCA. First of all, you must have seen an AMCA on display. That AMCA was built by VAM. This is a great example for our partnership. Both VAM and ADA team spent almost 4 years, 2 years for engineering, and then 2 years for realizing this particular product. We had a lot of challenges. First of all, building such a large aircraft, achieving that surface accuracies in the first article itself. So we have made skin engineering, making that type of an accurate skin engineering. Then we have, it's not a model, I want to tell you, because it has a lot of purposes. So we have to do a lot of structural engineering, then a lot of process engineering, and also tool engineering, then to realize those parts and jigs and assemblies. So finally, the whole system we could realize in the manufacturing cycle is concerned 2 years. So this was the strength of the collaboration between the ADA and VAM, and also the capability to realize a complex system like this. So thank you all for basically your one of the reason for this. So second one is the capability and capacity. One example is how VAM has grown from 10 by 10 room in 1988 to today. We are building an IDS, which is about 1.5 lakh million square foot, and we are 500,000 square foot together, 2 million square foot. Now you can say the quantum of, the capability and capacity as a company VAM built. So similarly, there are many entities in India. They have also grown. Then, I've seen in this exhibition today, there are many small players, medium players, actually, they're showcasing their products. So we have the capability exists. That's what, I'm just trying to highlight. Then the industry also has done a lot of rather progress in the sensors. Today, VAM has realized close to 12 ultra-optical systems for seaborne platforms, then land-based applications, and then airborne applications. Then similarly, radars, inertial sensors, like that there are, most of the basic sensors are available. But of course, as Admiral said, technology is a moving platform, so we have to do many more things. Then what I also see, certain things, for example, I want to add one point to the Commodore's what he has added on the IDEX and the MSME. VAM has grown from MSME and they do respect to MSME. But the Navy demands a lot of reliability. That the availability of the system for you is very important at the right time. So the reliability is the key factor. So therefore, we need to understand the legacy systems and their practices so that we can save time, then move to the next step. Otherwise, if you want to ab initio develop a product, and develop a process and then establish infrastructure for a reliable product, it's not so easy. Because with my experience, I'm telling, people sometimes comment on us, you take long time, but they'll be very, very happy seeing our product because product has to work. Because, the delay they can forget, but if we supply wrong quality, they will curse on us, and then finally we'll be out of the business. So, therefore, it really helps us to do that. The another important aspect, continuation to the development process. So, what we have to improve today, even though industry is associated in most of the development of the PSUs and DRDO, but we are entering at a little later stage. If we can start this association at an early stage, I think this we can accelerate the development. Then the third point is actually the industry challenges. The Chenab Bridge, which I depicted, basically an opportunity could bring Chenab Bridge. So therefore, throw your challenges to us, and then an opportunity as a program can really, actually help us to, come to your expectations. This is what is actually we are looking for. Programs, large programs like an LCA, it's a large program. Of course, technology transfer programs where, our OEMs will use the technology. From a development program to productionization, definitely there's an add-on which we need to do, which we are now trying to accelerate. But the program is the key for us, for a starting point for us to really come up to your expectations. So that, our fund investors can invest, bankers can pay money. Without that, no one will give you money. So without money, we can't really build an infrastructure. Another important aspect is the 70% of the work or an 80% of the work, like what CNS told in the morning in his address. So with the PSUs, if you see about 5 to 6 PSUs are holding the most of the contracts of services today. And industry is actually holding 10 to 12%. So there is I think it is like a tightrope for you as well as for us. We need to actually really create some sort of overlap between us so that, there's no clash of interests. Then our share of work will be there with us. Then that will actually help us to do more work for you. Otherwise, if we develop a product, then there are a lot of overlaps between us. So therefore, we need to really balance this. I think you have to play a big role there. Then another thing is, in a make-two cases, we have 1, 2. If there's a third successful, developer, I think he should be suitably rewarded so that, he's not at loss after qualifying his product. So, because he has put a lot of his resources. Sometimes those developer can be a small scale company. So definitely we have to think in those lines. If it can be a fourth supplier also, we should reward suitably. This is another point which I thought for the benefit of the developers. The resource development is actually another important key subject which he has asked me to speak. See, one is actually I'm trying to show that Jamnagar. That is actually collaboration between the global partners, Indian entities, and actually together we could build the gigantic, refinery. So, again, continuation to my previous slide, a program can definitely enable us to bring in resources. But besides that, I've just added few suggestions here, like now what is happening? Our institutions, except few IITs and NITs, most of the private industries, they have moved from core subjects to all IT and AI-based systems. Therefore, no core engineer is available to the industry today. So it is a dangerous scenario for us. Then what we have to do in that area? So naturally, we need to encourage some sort of investments. Maybe if no one is investing, people like us have to invest.
1 minute to go.
Oh, yes, sir. So then the next one is I think then there are a few other points, so then I'll move to the next slide. The systems to platforms. The one important thing which I want to add is parallel developments so that we can really, there's a competition among the developers and there's an also backup for you. The next part is clear processes to, if you make a roadmap for a technology so that we can really visualize your requirements, get ready, because sometimes platforms needs more time, more than 5 years. Maybe we have to give us more time, then advanced planning can really help us. On the way forward, not many points. The DCPP selection is another important area. So DCPP selection should be a capability demonstration. Sometimes you are giving a financial gate. The financial gate, with that they'll come, a construction company can come into a defense product. So they will get through. And then they will bank on our resources. They take our own people. And then, finally, you are disturbing the whole ecosystem. So then, finally, they can't be a long-term supplier, supporter to you. So therefore, this is another key important fact. I think since Admiral has given the end of, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Raju Garu. Several important, valuable, practical experiences that you brought out in system, subsystem, structure, avionics, of indigenous aircraft development and your partnership with ADA. But I think some points that you brought out are very interesting. I think there's a lot of take-home for you and all of us in the Navy. Providing private sector access to legacy equipment to enable, at least spiral development or making a better product as a part of that. Private sector employees for training. I know that PSUs, people come for TMC in Naval War College. We could consider if we could get some of our, at least from our primes or some people to come and attend the course so that they get an idea of what the Navy is all about. Government facilities for development and tasking, it's already there, I think, in the DAP, if I'm not mistaken. The only problem is the process is so long and so many, paperwork is so long that it sometimes kills the whole intent. Fast tracking and self-certification, I think a green channel definitely must be open for some people who constantly perform and give quality products. Thank you so much.
May I now request all three speakers to kindly take their seat in the audience, please? And may I invite next two speakers to come up on stage, please?
So whilst people are settling down, I'll introduce the next speaker, Ms. Elizabeth Baker. She's the Vice President, International Business Development for Ultramarine and is responsible for Ultramarine's strategic partnership in all international markets. Prior to this appointment, Ms. Baker had worked with Thales, guiding the company's export business globally. She's also been involved in leading government campaigns in UK for Airbus Defence and Space and worked as a consultant for other major defense primes, including Kinetic and General Dynamics. Ms. Baker would be speaking to us on the topic, challenges faced by foreign OEMs for manufacturing in India. Over to you.
Admirals, colleagues, thank you very much indeed for the invitation to speak to you all this morning on the subject of Atmanirbhar for Indian Naval Aviation. I'm going to speak to you on the opportunities and challenges from the perspective of a foreign OEM experienced of working in the Indian market and setting up manufacturing processes here. I first experienced and participated in the signing of an MOU at Aero India in 2017. The purpose of the MOU was to explore the potential for Make in India. We did a very detailed exploration of the potential to Make in India over the following years. We had great and high-profile government support on both sides. In February 2017, we thought we'd made a landmark agreement which would propel things forward at pace. In December 2024, the team signed their first contract. It was nearly 8 years later. In the universe of international defense markets, India represents a bright and shining planet. It's one of the very largest. The size of the Indian economy, its influence in global politics, its efficiency in manufacturing, its leadership in software development, all of these things you have, and they all serve to make India a really attractive partner for overseas companies and a very, very significant market for us to play in. Specifically, looking at this from a naval aviation perspective, the growing Chinese presence in the Indian Ocean, in collaboration with Pakistan, is driving India's need to enhance undersea domain awareness. And that in turn brings the activities of the Indian Navy's aviators into sharp focus. The aviators of the Indian Navy, whether they're in fixed-wing platforms, in helicopters, or whether they're controlling uncrewed platforms, they are the teams who are going to unlock the secrets of the Indian Ocean. And to do that, they need the very best in global sonobuoy technology. They need ultramaritime. The technology we have today, and we are the only provider of operationally tried and tested multi-static active sonobuoy solutions that are exportable to India, and the technology we will look to develop together tomorrow to meet the challenges of this particular environment. We're bringing this technology to India together with Bharat Dynamics Limited in a first-of-its-kind co-production construct for US sonobuoys. This is welcomed by the US government and strongly supported for India's transition to self-reliance. And so, how do foreign OEMs land successfully on the golden planet without endlessly orbiting in rings around it? I believe that the key is a true and trusting partnership, the sharing of knowledge, technology, and understanding on both sides. We've all heard of transfer of technology. In some markets, it's referred to as transfer of knowledge and technology. So not just TOT, TOCAT. Both of these terms imply a one-way traffic from the overseas OEM into the foreign partner or the Indian partner. And I think that's not how these things work, really. I think we need to focus more on a proper exchange of understanding. So I want to invent today the EOU, the exchange of understanding. This needs to be a two-way process. And perhaps things have moved a little bit more quickly from our original position in 2017 if we'd really had the breadth of understanding across two organizations. Sharing technology requires trust and a deep level of understanding. On our side, some things which require really tortuous investment boards, very difficult government planning cycles, long-term fundraising, those are things that sometimes you can do really quickly in India, and we can't do those things really quickly. On our side also, we need to be really careful not to assume that our built-in ways of working inside a large OEM are automatically replicated in another organisation, even if both organisations are manufacturers. Commonly used terms can have very different definitions in different markets. I've often said that working in India requires a total tolerance to ambiguity, but actually that's not what it really needs. What it really needs is a laser-eyed focus on the risks which come from unarticulated assumptions, coupled with an overarching willingness to work together to iron out those ambiguities so that both parties feel they're standing on firm ground. We need a commitment to replace opacity with clarity so that we're both very confident of the path ahead. So if we look at some facts, India has the fourth largest defence budget in the world in 2024 after the US, China and Russia. So for many, many nations, it's the very largest accessible export market for defence equipment. The Indian market itself, from a foreign OEM's perspective, represents a massive opportunity. Manufacturing in India has to bring with it a beneficial access to the Indian market. When we talk at home about transfer of technology, from some of our colleagues' perspectives, it's easy for an OEM's workforce to see Make in India or transfer of technology as a threat to them. They think it might reduce investment at home, it might threaten jobs at home. But in fact, the opposite is true. So we need to help educate people about that. Access to this huge market and the fact that Make in India supports a continued co-investment and co-development of technologies means growth in jobs in both countries. An OEM must have genuine access to the Indian market. And provided that is the case, and provided future procurement constructs reward the value of the investment being made, a Make in India for India makes a lot of sense to an overseas OEM. But actually, so does Make in India for the world. So we at Ultramaritime are seeing very clearly that we can leverage our partnerships in India, not just for those capabilities that we seek to build in India, but for our whole global supply chain. So our supply chain teams are engaged right now with our partners in India, expanding as far as possible the opportunity to source components from Indian MSMEs and Indian component providers and from our partners themselves. Resilience of supply chains are important for everybody, and India provides us with an opportunity to increase the resilience of our supply chain. Even in our plans to do co-production of sonobuoys in India, we'll be making part of the sonobuoys in India and part of our sonobuoys in the US. Even within the parts that we manufacture in the US, we will be looking to source Indian components. And this means that in our sonobuoys, components from India will be offered to the US Navy and all of our international export customers. So I think that really will be Make in India for the world. So what are the other disruptors and challenges that an OEM faces? I would say that hesitancy is a great disruptor. And I've seen that on the part of an OEM. It can cause great delays and difficulties in the final landing. Both parties need to work hard to understand the approvals and processes of the other. We all have approval processes. Any OEM that has technology worth sharing will have complex approval processes. And it only takes one naysayer at the approvals board to halt the whole thing for months. So we need to work hard on both sides to make sure that everybody understands what it will take to make it work and why it's worth it. Unfortunately, at home, still there are some misconceptions about Indian capabilities and strengths, and that can be can give a break on progress as well. In my experience, OEMs should worry less about how India will catch up and more about how we, the OEM, will keep up when they really understand the full strength of Indian capability and that is revealed to them. But to overcome these concerns and to enable the right production, testing, and quality processes to be instilled from the start, we need, from day one, to reassure the US and the Indian Navy that Indian-built sonobuoys are equivalent to those built in the US, and that we're investing in. So what we're doing is we're investing in building the interpersonal relationships between experts on one side and experts on the other. It's not just about sending over a pack of drawings, a bill of materials, and say, build this, source that. That's not enough. Our experts in production, in testing, in quality control, they need to be confident that they have shared and had adopted in India the standards that they expect. When they're confident, they will be able to convince our board that this has been done correctly, and that is what we need. So this is the EOU, the exchange of understanding at work. Our colleagues will be precise, and they will have high expectations. That's a good thing. We also need India to properly value the technology we bring. Our investments have taken place over many years. Our offer will have built into it the operational experience of our armed forces, all of the research and development that we've funded over the years of innovation that will have brought our technology to the forefront of the global market. It's not something we're going to hand over lightly or cheaply. But in my understanding, this experience is developing very well. We have, I think, a growing patience between our nations that it's not possible to go from zero to a fully functioning manufacturing line and complete a transfer of technology overnight. This is a long-term process with long-term gains for both sides. Having said that, our target is to deliver production sonobuoys, US specification sonobuoys, from an Indian production line in 2027. So timeliness is also a worry for us and for India as well. Strategic patience is required on both sides, as well as the respect for each other's processes and procedures. Sometimes I've experienced that people enjoy negotiating just a little bit too much, and they can't resist continuing to negotiate. I'm sure you will recognize it. I can see some smiles in the audience. I went to one meeting where we had a final proposal on the table, and we had a minister there, and we were very surprised when on the other side of the table, our colleague said, "We have miles to go before we sleep." It's great to have Robert Frost, the poet, quoted in a defense engagement. I really approve of that. More poetry in defense, that's a good idea. But it was hard at the time because we were ready to sign. And I think we all need to work hard to accelerate and to achieve the goals that have been set out by the Indian Navy today. So, just in conclusion, I can't pretend I have all the keys, but I do believe it's possible as an overseas OEM to land on the golden planet and build a really shiny future together. Like most things in business, in the end, it comes down to people. I'm really proud to announce that Ultramaritime has signed an initial contract with BDL that sets us on the path to co-producing US specification sonobuoys in India under Make in India principles. Our production, our testing, and our quality teams are on their way over now. The exchange of understanding, the EOU, is about to step up another gear. We look forward to building our production lines in India. We're going to start production in 2027. Thank you all for your support in our endeavour. It will be hard, but it is possible. And I'm going to use a little bit more of that poem. We have promises to keep. We're committed to this, and together we will succeed. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Lots of points to ponder and several recommendations, all on a positive, very positive note. Thank you so much. You spoke about 8 years from MOU to contract. We are not strangers to that kind of thing, from AON to contract. But you mentioned, we have a saying in the Navy, time and tide waits for nobody. I just want to add time, tide and technology waits for no one. And I think the point is very well brought home by you. The issue of transfer of knowledge and exchange of understanding. That is a very, very valuable input. And I think this point on the unarticulated assumptions, I think you can expect a couple of questions and they might ask you to give an example of that. So thank you so much. Our next speaker, Captain Vishal Kanwar, is a former naval officer, has extensive experience in the military and corporate. He's currently leading PwC India's aerospace, defense and space practice for last 7 years. He has over 30 years of professional experience and has rendered advice in aerospace, defense and space on market assessments, investment, strategic roadmap, policy, transformation and regulatory matters, and extensively supported ministries, agencies and private sector players in Europe, the US, West and South Asia. He's a regular panelist at aerospace, defense and space related events in India and abroad. Captain Kanwar would be speaking to us on the topic, access to private funding for aerospace and defense companies in India. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. Deputy Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Tarun Sopti, my senior in National Defense Academy. DGNO, Vice Admiral Pramod, my coursemate. It couldn't have been a better pleasure to be here. Distinguished speakers, flag officers, and dear friends. The topic which I'm going to take on today is, I would say, the Achilles heel of the Indian aerospace and defense industry. I don't know how many of you have heard, and I think to some extent Commodore Malgaonkar also alluded to it, on something called the Valley of Death. Any startup gets the initial seed funding, creates a prototype, there are grants coming from IDEX, TDF, and then suddenly, when he needs funds for growth, there are no funds available. And this has been the case, if you look at globally, everywhere, that most startups get into a valley of death. And the beauty is, any startup which navigates the valley of death and comes out of it is extremely successful. And most unicorns come from there. Whether it is SpaceX, which was almost in a valley of death, till it became a unicorn now, or, even for that matter, you can think of Leonardo, a lot of global examples in aerospace defense industry. The challenge is, how do we create more unicorns in the aerospace industry? What I'm going to cover today is broadly take you through the need of private industry. And I think one thing which is coming out in this discussion is more and more private sector involvement is good for the aerospace defense. Some of the global best practices, how Indian companies are becoming an attractive destination. The investor angle, I think this is very important because I see a lot of uniformed forces here, having been for about 7 years in the corporate world from ISB. I can tell you, wearing a business lens is very important for us to understand the industry. So who are these people who are going to give the private investment? What do they look for? And how do they find out whether this specific company is good for investment or not? So I'm going to take you through this and a bit of a PwC experience. So, if you see globally how we are seeing the attractiveness of the industry as we see, the defense production is growing. We are looking at about 11% growth of the capital budget. The interesting part is the participation of the private sector is increasing. And over a period of time, we are seeing about 13% growth rate of the defense production. Now, somebody could ask, if the production is growing at 13%, the capital budget is growing at 11%, where is obviously the absolute numbers are different, but that is where our private sector is getting into exports. The export numbers are really increasing from the private sector. Mr. Raju spoke about the exports from his company. So this is what the private sector does. If you don't fund them, they will look for exports. There are enough players outside who would look for the same technology, same subsystem, component level exports. So the takeaway from this, what I wanted to mention is that there is this huge demand, supply is catching up with the demand, and there are promotional regulatory processes in place for that demand. In addition to the demand and supply game, which you look at in the business sets, Yes, the government is constrained in budgeting the private sector. The government can come in at the seed funding or the pre-seed funding, but government cannot continue across funding the entire growth of a company. Faster development cycles are coming in. And I think one of the main things where we feel that private sector participation has to increase is what is happening in geopolitically, whether it is Microsoft, Palantir, Lockheed Martin. I don't think the current war which we are seeing in Europe would have had the same progression if these private companies had not helped one of the countries there. So therefore, the private sector participation in the future of warfare, innovation in battlefield is a must, and this is the reason where we feel that investments into private sector have to flow in from. Coming to some of the global best practices as we see, one of the main things which we keep telling companies in PwC when we support companies getting their fundings from private investors is, one is technology capability. Yes, you are creating a product, but you have to look at the other areas, and globally, whether it's the industry landscape, whether you're looking at the policies, whether they could be sector agnostic or sector specific, whether it is looking at the market dynamics, which is so important. Where is the market for your product, for your technology? What is your current future market? What is the business case? So at the end of the day, you can survive till you create a prototype on bootstrapping and some bit of, funds from IDEX, TDF, and, but beyond that, if you have to scale up and grow and expand and diversify, you would have to look at a holistic view. Now, I wanted to give some examples. I did mention, if you look at SpaceX, it started with $20 million of seed funding from Elon Musk. Thereafter, they went in for about close to $10 billion of private investing. If you look at Inaugural, a cutting-edge company coming up in the US, again, a lot of, close to about $1.9 billion of private investment. Airbus, yes, they own, corporate venture capital brings in funding. Leonardo is more of a public-private partnership and taking money as they go for public. The takeaway from this slide is that it is the private investment which drives the aerospace industry. The government cannot handhold an industry end to end. Beyond the prototyping, the private industry has to take funding from the. Now, I don't think I'll cover much here because I think everybody's spoken where the Indian companies are becoming attractive. I just want to leave one point on this slide. Of course, we started with the license Raj till the 80s. Then from 80s to 90s, we started getting into self-reliance. I would say that 2001 is when the private sector opened up for defense. And right now from 2000, now we are opening up into an area where we're getting a more make in India and make for the world. The moot point here is that the private sector right now in India, and we did some back of the envelope thing, is where, the auto sector was, say, 20 years back. So we are at a cusp. Today, India has a very strong auto industry, a very mature, strong auto industry. Most cars which we buy are Indian cars. We see a similar thing happening in the aerospace and defense, maybe in 15 to 20 years. And that is what we have to see. How do we take that inflection point and take it forward? Some of the things which I also wanted to mention is, some of the Indian companies have become global single source suppliers of so many products, and these are mostly at the subsystem or a system or a component level, whether aircraft structures, aircraft engine, helicopter assemblies, missile systems, avionics, radars, and also in space. This just shows that how the exports is increasing, and I can give you a figure. Our exports have doubled in the last 5 years, whilst we are at about almost $2.5 billion plus exports in the defense. So this is again one of the reasons why we are seeing a lot of movement in private equity and venture capitalist funds, not only Indian but foreign also, who are showing interest in Indian companies. Now comes the investor angle, which I would say the most important angle. Who are they and what do they look for? And I think this is very important to understand both from the government perspective and also the industry, because this is what is going to drive. Broadly, there are, we look at about 7 types of funds. There are venture capital funds, which are essentially the early stage funding, which starts at the pre-seed. Private equity funds, which is post-revenue, which comes in at the growth phase after the prototype and the production has started. Corporate venture capital funds are typically, like we gave an example of Airbus, and likewise you have in Tata, L&T. Those are venture funds, part of the corporate industry, which are with them. Then you have FDIs and global defense companies. Obviously, this is coming from JVs. It started off as offsets, but now we are getting more and more a JV partnership because of the Atmanirbhar initiatives. Public-private funds, government-backed funds, IDEX, TDF becomes one of the example. Angel investors are important, or the HNI funds, which are especially investing in the pre-revenue stage. And stock markets, when the companies go for IPO and want to be publicly listed. Now, broadly, these are the 10 most important things a private investor, whether it's a venture capitalist, angel investor, or a private equity guy looks at in a company. So if you notice carefully, technology is just one part of it, right? It's just one part of it. And that's why somehow we missed the bus, both from the demand side, which is MOD, Indian Navy, the naval aviation, and also from the supply side, which is the defense production, which is happening, and the ecosystem which is being created. Out of these 10, 6 of them are intrinsic. I would say intrinsics are those ones which are within the company, which are technology, innovation, capability, what is the competitive advantage, or how is it differentiated in the market, that company. The management team becomes very important. If it is a private equity company, they look at your management, they look at your financial performance, look at the health of finances, scalability of operation, and that's something Captain also spoke about. Can you scale up the operations in your, what kind of SOPs and procedures you have. And there are some extrinsic areas. Extrinsics are market investments, strategic partnerships which you have in the external environment, especially are you compliant with the regulatory and the legal standing, and what is the supply chains you have created, redundancies in supply chain. So these are the 10 broad buckets globally that private investors look at, and some of them are specific for A&D as well, which is very important for both sides to understand. And I think it is important for the buyer to understand that, because you will have more and more companies going down the value of death, and it is important for the seller, which is the industry, to understand that, because you will be cross-examined on these 10 parameters when a private investment fund comes into you. Okay. Now, how does he go about assessing this? I like to throw some light on that as well. That normally you carry out 4 types of due diligences. There is a commercial due diligence, in which you essentially look at what is the market? Is the market viable? Is there a business case for it? Then there's a financial due diligence, which you look at what is the financial health? Are you achieving the top line and the bottom line? Legal due diligence, which is on more on compliances and legalese. And finally, the technical due diligence, which I think Captain Behra rightly brought out. What are your design parameters? Are you modular? Are you scalable? Is the product agile? Is it looking at more digitization? So these are the areas where any investment, with private equity investment which flows in, they go through this entire process, and that's how they want to bet on that company going forward. Now, this is broadly what I mentioned on the commercial due diligence, what we are looking at, market side, competition landscape, and all of them come to decide whether that product is viable or not. It is a simple business lens which the private equity firms use. They understand you have made a very good product. They want to see what is the business case there. And that is where we need to help them with orders, and we give them visibility. And I agree with Commodore Malgaonkar bringing out, looking at a white paper on technology rather than just on products. I think those are the areas which we do. Finally, what comes out of this due diligence is just 2 most important things. What is your top line and your profitability projections for the next 5 years? Normally, you look at a window of 5 years. In 5 years, is that company going to make money? At the end of the day, guys, I do agree that patriotism is important. And believe me, most of these 16,000 odd MSMEs which we have in the sector start from that premise. But after some time, they do need cash for R&D, for scaling up, for manufacturing, and it's important that the top and bottom line is showing positiveness in the next 5 years. Now, within PwC, we have done a lot of work in this, and I mean, I've already spent time on this, whether it is an IPO or fundraising, or what are the important areas we do due diligences, we support company. The good part I want to mention is, the indication of a maturing aerospace industry is when the private equity guys who invest only when the revenue starts coming from a company, post-revenue, get interested. And I'm seeing that change. In the last 7 years in consulting, that change has happened in the last 2 to 3 years. That's a good sign. That means the private equity people who are going to put money upwards of 100 crores in this company, they are interested. They see the demand. They see the supply building up. They see a promotional regulatory environment. Now, obviously, now it is left to us, how do we support, as a buyer, the industry, and how industry looks at what they are expected to do to ensure the desire of a private equity company to come in and fund you is met halfway through. These are some of the areas where PwC looks at. Essentially, we are looking at solving important problems for the aerospace defense industry. For example, we wrote the Digital Vision and Strategy document for ISRO in space. We supported Dr. Pawan Goenka in that. In that document, we helped them create a roadmap for the space industry. And to that question which Commander Malgonkar mentioned, today the space industry has a document for the next 10 years. What are the technologies, what areas we are looking at? And kudos for that white paper. Likewise, we are working with DRDO now. We are working on a R&D strategy roadmap for one of the clusters in DRDO. So I think those kind of work is what is required, and obviously it has to be driven by the service itself. Transaction advisory is what we do in terms of JV partnership search, and this is where the private investor comes in, manufacturing, market assessment, regulatory and other. So towards the end, I would like to say that the takeaways are fivefold. First, we have to recognize that the aerospace and defense industry, if it has to grow, it has to grow with the private investment. The government cannot invest the company end to end. After the prototype is developed, that has to shift. The major focus of the investment, I completely agree with the panel, is R&D. I would say second is manufacturing and production capability and how you get in productivity. The next point is, what are these companies looking for? These companies are looking for what is the commerciality of that company? What is the business case it comes in? The market, the legal standpoint and the compliances, and then finally the technical and the financial due diligence. So it is important that we understand that we give that clarity to that company where he can walk up to a private equity and say, this is the money I expect to make in the next 5 years, and that's how the private equity will dole out money to him. And lastly, I would say is that in this entire gamut of private investment, I would say if we can handle this problem of private equity, venture capitalists and angel investors investing in the Indian aerospace and defense industry, we see an exponential growth. Right now, believe me, when we go for commercial due diligences of companies in Hyderabad or Bangalore which are asking for funds, we have helped funds upwards of 125 crores or if investment. We see that it is a growing market, but we are always, some of the challenges which we have not been able to address in creating a pipeline view for the company to create a business case for it. That's all from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Captain Kanwar. Very informative. The venture capitalists, and you listed a lot of capitalists. I also read about patient capitalists, which is the government. But I thought I'd change it to impatient capitalists because we also don't have that kind of patience. Also, this issue of automobile sector was very well brought out. In fact, when we in the Navy were trying to push the naval utility helicopter case, we were pushing it as a Maruti moment for helicopters. Of course, it didn't happen, but that's a separate story. So now, you want to rearrange?
All speakers are now requested to join on stage, please, for the question answer session.
Okay, whilst they're joining, please ask your questions, keep them short, state your name. I'll decide I'll decide who will ask the question and to whom you ask this question. And please keep your questions short. I'm sorry, I mismanaged the time. We just got about 10 odd minutes. Are you giving us some grace time?
Sir, yes, we may extend till 5 more minutes or 5 to 10 minutes, not more than that.
So first the lady behind, then Srinivas Garu, and the gentleman in the suit. Yeah. So three of you could please shoot.
Good morning. My name is Vaishnavi. I run a re-engineering and indigenization firm. We're based out of Chennai. I have two one is a comment, one is a question. Question is to Captain Kanwar, but before the question, in this exhibitor list, there are very, very few service providers. I'm a design firm. I re-engineer. What happens is we become sub-vendors to the manufacturers, forgetting that to make in India, we'll have to also design in India. Design involves, the finding out the blueprint of why the Russian part that was designed, let's say 60 years ago, why it has come into being. And we do the decoding. Sadly, I don't think services are being as valued as manufacturers are. That's a comment. Second of all, with even with, Captain Conver's presentation, there's so much on investment to manufacturers. It was predominantly product-based. What about the people, which is design being the core DNA of the product? What is the support that's being rendered by...
So, investment in design, that's the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Services and importance to general.
Yeah, so he'll answer this.
Yes, thank you.
You can meanwhile give the mic to the gentleman in the grey suit, light grey suit. Yeah, please.
Sir, so my name is Srinivas Raju, Managing Director for Geomardi, Visakhapatnam. For last 15 years, we are into subsea related activities, sir. Through this process, we started observing what it is happening in the industry for Indian development and the requirements and for our mission and vision. Sir, mainly my observations are to this think tank and the future of India. We need really some test basins, sir, in the open sea conditions. One in West Coast and East Coast, because you are there in so many panels. Once we get that kind of environment, we can put smart cables and smart sensors and systems in place with some kind of a floating data centers.
So floating test bases
by
the Navy.
So that we can test our infrastructure in the seabed and can be used for multi-purpose requirements, climate change and or for other requirements. That is what I found a gap in our progress. Thank you.
Thank you for your input.
Joseph Subba Reddy, NM Rothschild & Sons. So I just want to add on to the earlier presentation. With regards to the FDI, I mean, Reserve Bank of India has enabled a lot of provisions, where companies, component manufacturers, and also the OEMs, they can raise external commercial borrowing, ECBs, directly from the foreign portfolios. I mean, those that have been sort of selected by the Reserve Bank, and the interest rates are very low. In fact, we ourselves, we have done a lot of funding in that aspect, and we're working very closely with the OEMs. And because the POS, the principal swap, coupon swap almost comes down to zero, and there's also provision for the hedging. The hedging, which is basically a sort of a cost multiplier in any loan, and it's also sort of reduced. So there's dramatic reduction in the loan, in the rates. So yeah, I mean, the option is there. Yeah.
Thank you. So money makes the world go round. So you have to answer all these.
Yeah. So I think I'll first answer the question on design. I think that's a very apt question. At the outset, I will tell you the private equity and venture capitalists are very interested in design and engineering funding. However, it has not happened. I'll give you the reasons also. Typically, startups make a product, and that product has to go into if it's a module, it will go to a system, or a subsystem will go to... The design and engineering part is something which is missed out, and that is where probably these companies reach out to you. In our discussions with private equity, because it's the same private equity, right? It is also investing in an auto company or also in other industry. So when they look at A&D, they are looking at that design and engineering with a magnifying lens. What is the value add? It's like when I visited Mr. Raju's company. So they do a lot of design engineering in-house in WEM technologies. What is the value add you create on that technology other than when you're getting into product design engineering? So I can assure you that that is something which is looked at for the companies, and that is something if there is no captive design and engineering capability to the level which is required, normally it's a no-go in the funding. So I can also say that, yeah.
Yeah, there was a captain in uniform who, you yourself, then the gentleman in a black suit. Everybody is wearing a black suit, but the one with the beard and with the red tie. Yeah, please go ahead.
Morning, sir. I'm Captain Venkatesh, commanding INS 339, Kamo 31 Sponsor. I have two short questions for Commodore Maulankar, retired, sir. So my first point was about the multi-role versus single role. Kamo 31 is it's a purely single role AEW platform, and it is not aged. It continues to perform at its max performance even today. But having said that, sir, for a sub-conventional conflict, when we are looking at, and a commander at sea, like you said, magazines are limited. don't you think, sir, that multi-role asset that can look into both military, constabulary, and benign role induction will possibly, we need both kind of assets. It cannot be multi-role or single role, possibly the military and the other roles, possibly we need to look at a diverse kind of environment and the equipment. That was first point, sir. Second point was on the QR, sir, what you said. We do agree that we don't have a core static QR-based team. It's a moving population. We do make a QRs with the desk officer after taking a lot of inputs from field, etc. But sir, having accepted the QR, any company or any firm which has accepted the QR, thereafter, sir, out of the 5, now a company possibly cannot say that now we have met 3 or 4 accepted, because once it is accepted, don't you think, sir, that all the QRs need to be met for the acceptance of the product? Or it should go back to the QR process and say we cannot do it. But having accepted, and once the product is gone into a development, so the list down QRs possibly should be met, sir. These are my 2 points.
Thank you so much. Yeah, please.
Hello. Hi. Soham from Auric AI. I wanted to ask, like, this question's open to everyone. What are your thoughts on...
Specifically, otherwise everybody will...
What are your thoughts on completely autonomous AI-enabled systems? Not just manned, unmanned teaming, but completely autonomous systems that are powered by AI.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I'm Abdul from Azista Industries. Thank you so much for this opportunity. My query is, of course, a problem statement is given and industry addresses it and comes out with solutions, maybe multiple solutions for the requirement. But carrying forward into manufacturing is something we request, like if a pilot project is given or a pilot order is given, so that enables the company to sustain. Of course, we do a lot of R&D and we give a solution, but we look forward as well that there is a pilot project or order given for sustainability of our industry. So could you throw some light?
Mao, would you take the question, and Ms. Baker, could you answer his query?
So,
whether we do anything with pilot projects and how you... Okay.
So regarding multi-role versus single role, it's a straightforward, it's a truism. When you don't have to carry anything, any equipment, any excess weight for any role which is not currently in use, at that very instant, you are advantaged versus anybody who's carrying a whole lot of stuff. There's a fantastic example just outside Naval Headquarters. Go and see the 2 kinds of sentries who are positioned outside Sena Bhavan. There are the DSC guards who have to carry a whole lot of equipment designed by committee, whistle, rules of engagement, plate carrier, etc. He is trying to do everything for everybody, whereas that is deemed insufficient, and therefore you back him up with one smart para soldier with a beret at a raked angle. But if you notice, he has sacrificed protection purely for the purpose of agility and being able to spot the threat well before. How come that soldier doesn't wear a plate, doesn't wear an armored plate? That will give you the thing that instinctively, when you are actually put under pressure, you will want to be single role, right? Okay. How does it translate into? Does it translate into the US Navy carrier decks of the 70s, 80s, wherein you had you had 5, 6 different types? Or does it translate to multi-role capable platforms, but with a clear primary role and a clear secondary role? The secondary role doesn't become secondary until you make more compromises on it. If you give the secondary role requirements the same level of indentation in your requirement set, and it has exactly the same weightage in terms of acceptance, achievement of the required thresholds for declaring it pass or not, it is not a secondary role. It is as much a primary role as that. So therefore, the approach to it, the mental approach to it, is what has to be there. If F-15 started with not a pound for air to ground, you must remember that not a pound for air to ground can easily translate to many pounds for air to ground when the need comes. But that's what I have to say about the multi-role. As far as accepting the request, see, finally it's a commercial thing. it's commercials. We have to pay salaries. If this is the only business opportunity that is available, you will reluctantly accept the requirements and hope that you will achieve them. The wisdom lies in listing requirements only on which you are willing to fail a company. It's not on the basis of what I wish I have. It is when it comes to the commercials. You're speaking of it from a slightly more contract commitments perspective, imposition of LD clauses kind of perspective. In that case, you must also make sure that your requirements are only those on which you are willing to declare a company fail. What's the point of writing requirements and then saying, as long as you meet 70% of them, it's okay. That subjectivity, you just kick the can down the road. Just to give you a last point on this, MUMT is a one-line requirement in the TED-BF PSQR, and so is something like the pilot baggage. This is an example I use particularly because the contrast is particularly glaring. They're, I think, at the same level of indentation, and if I'm not wrong, the word count for the pilot baggage is more than the word count for the MUMT. Now, you'll clearly see that without getting into specifics, there is something amiss in this.
Yeah, thank you, Mao. Actually, the days of QR are gone. Qualitative requirements is a waste of time. You should be giving systems requirement. Your QR should be 1 or 2 pages, that's all. And made in conjunction with the OEM. That is the way to go. Otherwise, you make 500-page QRs and you expect people to stick to that. I don't think that's the way to go. We need a rethink on that. May I request Amit to talk about the AI and Ms. Baker to answer the question.
Yeah. So, if I have understood your question correctly, you are seeking whether Navy is looking at complete use of complete AI towards certain roles. Did I understand your question correctly? So, in short, most certainly yes, but it all depends on what complexity of task we are looking at to be solved. At this present juncture, AI is still fledgling and it is grappling with the complexities of too many inputs for decision making. So, in short, yes, but it has to be taken in gradations. Smaller, less complex tasks at first, and thereafter graduate to much more complex tasks. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that working? Can people hear? It is. Okay. So just to answer on a few of these points, actually. Ultramaritime, I focused quite heavily this morning on the Sonobuoy aspect of Ultramaritime's business, but actually we are a very broad provider of future ASW capabilities, and we're doing a lot of very interesting innovation in that space, and it's absolutely impossible to innovate successfully without pilot projects, so I really fully support that. I also wanted to comment on the multi-role aspect of previous discussions because, and I would urge colleagues in the Indian Navy to look at other navies' plans, specifically look at the defence plan of the Norwegian Navy, because they are developing a concept around standard vessels, where their vessels will be standard, but where the very specific systems provisions will be modular. And so one of the capabilities that they will be looking to introduce on those standard vessels is a mission module, which is a towed array sonar in a module that can be placed on a vessel when it's required and removed from the vessel when it's not required. So I think it's possible to have multi-role capabilities, but the systems capabilities need to be very specific. And that obviously, piloting that capability will be very important. We're also doing some interesting developments in innovative sonar technology with a capability called C-Spear, which I urge you to look up again on our website. And we're looking at doing a pilot project with that. That is a persistent sonar capability that is a flexible capability that can be deployed from a vessel or from the shore and can be left in place for up to 6 months. We will be doing a pilot of that capability very soon, and I think it's important for our shareholders, for our investors, but also very important for future customers to gain confidence through pilot projects. And then the last thing I would say is that we're very open to co-development work in India. We've already been in discussions with DRDO and NPOL on some towed array development work, and we'll be looking at specific needs of the Indian Navy in the ASW domain. And so that work, as it comes together, I'm sure will require pilots. So very, very important part of development cycles. Thank you.
Mr. Rajukar, any views on funding, because you are the one with the receiving end? So.
Yeah, then PwC is next to us. I think it's not so easy to get funds, right? Funding, getting a fund from bank, getting a fund from PE, equally challenging. Yeah. As you said rightly, there are all 4 sides. They will look at your technology landscape, your revenue model, then your scalability, then the exit, all that, they look at this. So what my suggestion to the industry is, keep your books and processes, in a highly clean way, so that, even though you are very good in technology, you have a best product, but your best practices are also imperative for getting your fund. I think that's good enough.
Thank you so much. I think we've overshot our time, and I just request all of you to give a huge round of applause to our speaker.
So now may I request the moderator to kindly deliver his thoughts on the subject, please. So your thoughts, please. Ladies and gentlemen, let us have a big round of applause for today's moderator, esteemed moderator, and the speakers. Now I request Vice Admiral Tarun Sopti, Ati Visis Seva Medal, Deputy Chief of the Naval Staff, to kindly felicitate the moderator and the speakers. Sir, please. Thank you, sir. With that, we come to end of the seminar. You all have been a wonderful audience. Let us have a big round of applause for the audience. I request all to kindly remain seated till the dignitaries depart. Thank you. So may I request the moderator and the speakers to pre-line up for a group photograph, sir. So may I request Deputy Chief of Naval Staff to kindly join. Thank you, sir.
Back to work.